Hey everyone, it's Alex here, and today I'm going to walk through the Alienware 16X Aurora, my latest deep dive into a premium gaming laptop that's been getting a lot of buzz. I know the biggest hesitation when you're eyeing a high-end machine is whether the price tag translates into real-world benefit, especially when you're juggling a day job, streaming sessions, or just want something that won't feel like a paperweight on your coffee table. I've spent a few days actually using the machine, checked out the spec sheet, and skimmed a handful of recent buyer comments to make sure I'm not just repeating marketing copy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the basics that matter after you flip the lid open. The 16X Aurora is built around Intel's Ultra 9275HX, a 12-core, 24-thread CPU that promises desktop-level performance in a laptop chassis. In practice, that translates to smooth handling of anything from large open-world titles like Cyberpunk 2077 to content creation workloads such as 4K video exports. I ran a quick edit on a 30-minute 4K clip while gaming on the side, and the laptop never dipped below 70% CPU utilization. No stutter, no frame drops. That's the kind of multitasking confidence you need if you're a streamer who wants to run OBS, a game, and a browser simultaneously. The display is where the Aurora tries to set itself apart. A 16-inch WQXGA panel at 2560160 with a 240Hz refresh rate sounds impressive, and it truly is for fast-paced shooters. I tested Battlefield V on ultra settings, and the high refresh kept motion blur to an absolute minimum, making aiming feel tighter than on my older 1080p 144Hz screen. The extra vertical resolution also gives more workspace for coding or photo editing. But there's a trade-off. The panel's brightness caps at about 320 nits, which is decent indoor but struggles a bit in bright rooms or if you're trying to game near a window. If you often work in well-lit environments, you'll want to bring a bias light or keep the blinds down. Now onto the graphics card. NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 5060. This isn't the flagship RTX 4090, but it's a solid mid-range option that can push 1440p titles at high settings without screaming for power. I tried Elden Ring at 1440p, Ultra Textures, and RTX ON, and the frame count hovered around 80 frames per second, which is more than playable. The laptop also supports DLSS 3, and when you enable it, the performance bump is noticeable. Some games even climb into the 120 frames per second range. However, the GPU does have a thermal ceiling. After an hour of continuous rendering, the fans ramp up to a noticeable whine, and the chassis temperature can edge past 90 degrees. It never throttles hard enough to kill performance, but the acoustic profile might be a nuisance if you're used to whisper-quiet rigs. Storage and RAM are generous, a 1TB PCIe SSD paired with 64GB DDR5. For most gamers, that's overkill. Most titles occupy a fraction of that space, but the SSD's read speeds make loading worlds feel instantaneous. I loaded 3 major games: Red Dead Redemption 2, Hogwarts Legacy, and Starfield, each with a separate install, and load times were consistently under 10 seconds. The RAM amount is a safety net for creators who'll be running virtual machines or heavy Photoshop sessions, and I never saw any paging to disk, even with multiple apps open. One thing that catches a lot of eye baggage is the design. The Indigo finish gives the Aurora a futuristic vibe, and the RGB keyboard is fully customizable. In everyday use, the key travel is a bit shallower than a mechanical board, which some typists might find less satisfying. The backlit zones are nice for low-light gaming, but they're not the kind of feature that justifies a price increase. The real hidden cost is the weight. At roughly 6.5 pounds, this machine feels more like a portable workstation than a true laptop you can carry around. I can lug it to a coffee shop, but I'd rather keep it on a dedicated desk. If you need something you can comfortably take on a train for a few hours, you might be better off with a thinner 15-inch model. Battery life is another practical concern. Alienware advertises a hefty cell, but under gaming load the Aurora sips power fast. In my testing, a full charge gave me about an hour and 15 minutes of play before the limiter kicked in. For non-gaming tasks, email, browsing, media playback, the battery stretches to around 5 hours, which is acceptable for a machine of this class but still far from what a typical Ultrabook can deliver. If you expect to game unplugged, you'll need to keep your charger handy. So who should actually consider buying this? If you're a serious gamer who also does content creation, the Aurora offers a balanced mix of CPU muscle, GPU capability, and storage that can replace a desktop for many workflows. The high-refresh WQXGA screen is a huge plus for competitive shooters and for anyone who values crisp, spacious visuals for productivity. It's also a good pick if you already own a decent monitor and want the laptop as a portable backup plug.